Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Eldridge and Company. Today, my guest is Juvanie Piquant, a student at the New York City College of Technology. But she's not just studying. She's the first Haitian American woman to represent the 500,000 CUNY students as chair of the University Student Senate. And along with that, she is the student member of the CUNY's Board of Trustees. Juvanie, how do you do all of that?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And I don't know, I think that you don't do it all. You give bits and pieces of yourself to things, and it does take a village. So all of the things that I do, there are a bunch of people behind the scenes that help me, do what I do. But it definitely has been an experience, especially being a student at CUNY.
Wonderful. Are you a senior?
Yes, I'm a senior now, majoring in law and paralegal studies.
So you said that CUNY has changed your life. It's made you who you are. Can you explain that?
I think at a very young age, I grew up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and my father used to be an adjunct at Brooklyn College. And ever since I was little, I've had a family that has gone to CUNY, and they've done extraordinary things, whether it may be in New York City in their life. And it really was an institution that I saw from young, where I would just sit in the back when my father would teach class. He would teach Africana studies and French. And I would always go to Brooklyn College on the quad, and I would always just wait for him to finish class. And I would just see such a vibrant group of individuals. And I was very young, so I didn't know anything about what was higher education, what is New York City, and what role does CUNY play, and how did CUNY become what it is today. But I just knew it was just a group of people who were vibrant, who wanted to seek a better life. And they did that by contributing to the City University of New York. And years after that, I went to South Florida because I did middle school and high school there. And one pivotal moment that changed my perspective was the racism I faced in South Florida, especially in a predominantly white high school, where not many people who looked like me, who've gone through the walks of life like me, were, and I was trying to find who I was. But throughout all of those experiences, one thing that stayed consistent with me was challenging the status quo, challenging and implementing things that were different but should have been done. And I realized, well, there's something in me that wants to create change. And you can want to create change, but I truly believe every person has a specific moment in their life that makes them take that leap. And for me, it was the Marjory Stoneman Douglas school shooting in South Florida. That school shooting didn't happen not too far from my school, West Broward High School. And it's within the same school district, Broward County Schools. I remember that day vividly. The school's on lockdown. We can't move. You spend the whole year doing these fire drills and all these drills just in case something happens, but you never really think it's going to happen. Now, in fact, there's an active school shooting at a school nearby. And it was really, really a moment where I realized there are a lot of things that need to change. And that was my first protest that I went to, was walking out of school, protesting for gun violence and protesting for gun regulation. And I remember during South Florida, that's how the organization March for Our Lives started. And people at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School and other high schools in Florida created that organization. And ever since then, I told myself I have to be a collective agent of change, and how am I going to do that? And when I was applying for colleges, I realized I didn't want to stay in Florida. I want to go to a place that feeds my soul, but challenges me to be the most conscious-minded individual I can be. And that is what we call the City University of New York. And I truly believe that's why when one goes into CUNY and they come out, they're two different people.
It's so interesting because I also wanted to change the world. I mean, I still do, but I'm years older than you. And I grew up during shortly after, or early recovery of the Depression. Franklin Roosevelt was the president. And I have never forgotten the 4 freedoms that he always talked about, which in the whole thing was everybody should have freedom and everybody should be treated with dignity and everybody should be, have a house to live in and everything. And what do you attribute that to? That some people are it seems, born with that wanting to do all that kind of stuff.
I think for me, in particularly, my family's from Haiti, and I truly believe their experience, particularly my mom and my dad, their experience of growing up in Haiti, seeking an education, but coming to the United States for a better life. One thing that has stuck with me and they have instilled in my sister and I was never forgetting who Haiti is and what is Haiti and what has Haiti done from them. And not just in a materialistic way, but in terms of values and morals. And I think when you talk about the history of Haiti, a group of people who've continued to be resilient despite all odds. And when others need help, still going there to lend a helping hand despite not having it all yourself. When I think of Haiti, I think of that. Mm-hmm. And my parents constantly instilling that culture and not forgetting who they are, still knowing and cognizant of we're coming to America for a better life, but we will not forget Haiti and the culture and the importance of embracing this culture, especially being a young African-American woman in America. It is extremely important for me to keep my roots. And I think that is what keeps me going because I do know that the spirit of resiliency just doesn't come just as it comes through life experiences, but also being around people who've sacrificed their all to make ends meet, which were my parents.
And an overabundance of empathy, I think, also. And so what do you do as president of the Student Senate? How, in this organization, in this university, 500,000 people, the largest urban university in the country, and so diverse, so successfully diverse, I might say, diverse. How do you bring everybody together?
Well, I'll start with what is my job essentially. I've been involved as a student leader ever since I was a freshman. And before I became chair of USS, I focused specifically on the legislative side of things. I was a former vice chair of legislative affairs for the University Student Senate. And that's when I became extremely intrigued with New York City politics and understanding what New York City politics is and how does it play a role for CUNY. And the importance of knowing what role do students play in ensuring that our university stays afloat, and our activism and our advocacy and how we brand ourselves as the City University of New York as students. What does that mean? And my job is essentially to advocate, elevate, and represent the voices of students. And there are many, 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 many different voices. You probably know, former city councilwoman, there are many different people who want many different things and think that things should be done one way or another. It gets extremely complicated, but I truly believe a job as a leader, especially as the head of the organization, I see myself as the moral compass of this institution in regards to our students, and that pillar that keeps our students together despite the different perspectives and the different things and causes and issues that we rise. And how do I do that best to my ability, but in the best comfort of myself, and understanding how do I elevate their concerns, but also pushing the needle forward when we need to push the needle forward. I like to say it's very important when you go into something, you leave it better than how you found it. And I think throughout my tenure in history of student leadership at CUNY, we've done just that, from socioeconomically, from gender equity, from higher education. We have pushed the needle. And it's been a place for me to actually see the fruits of my labor, from organizing ever since I was a freshman to now, to seeing the difference in the institution, but seeing that, change is happening.
I see that the legislative issues are, well, partially, or most importantly, I guess, are economic ones, like opposition, of course, to increasing the tuition, and then the TAP grants and that kind of the money from the state. Is that a binding thing, that so many people have the same needs?
Yeah, I think when we talk about financially within CUNY and our students, that is the fundamental core of an issue that brings us together. I like to say that is our foundation of issues that
Yeah,
we all share, and we
exactly.
all are on the same page with that.
Right.
So
And
I
you're
would,
working hard to be able to do it. I mean, it's so different from students who go to just, go to high school, go graduate, the parents send them to college. Not to say that a lot of other people don't have to worry about the money, but
yeah,
this is a group of people that are really interested in what they're learning and their mission.
no, I definitely agree.
University. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me and myself within this year, and last year, I've learned how do we play a key role within the New York State legislature? How do we lobby? How do we ensure what we want for CUNY, we get it? And one thing about student government is I actually liked it. I actually enjoyed understanding this vast institution that has so many different things, but also understanding New York City politics, which is extremely vast, which I fully, obviously up to this day, don't fully understand, but understanding what role we play as constituents, as everyday New Yorkers, how can we make this city better? And it's been a world of a journey from working on legislation with elected officials. If someone told me when you get to college, you'll be advocating for students and helping to write legislation to help CUNY students, I would have told you no. And these are the opportunities CUNY has given me and given me the opportunity to represent students, but also be around a group of students who are so incredibly determined and who think about community and who really think about community and what can they do for community.
Do you understand how important a constituency you're leading when you meet with these local officials?
Yes.
I mean,
And
they they aren't going to antagonize you if they can get not have to do that, They're all too welcome to enlist your help, I would assume.
yeah, and every lobby meeting I would go in with my list of constituents each elected official would
Yeah.
have in their district, and they would be kind of surprised that I did that research to kind of know how many
Yeah.
thousands of students they represent.
You have to keep saying 500,000 students.
Yeah, yeah, I have to. I have
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think of the city government?
to. I I'll start with this. I think the new incoming class of city council
Very.
is it's getting very close to who we are as New Yorkers.
Exactly.
And I want to start with the rising numbers of women that we have in the council. This is going to change the playing field. This is going to change the issues we elevate. And I think our city is just going to be better overall. And I think that representation, even though representation is not all, but them having the seat at the table, knowing how difficult it is for women in politics, just in general, the barriers we face, and the challenges that you have upon challenges, just because sometimes you're a woman, that's the extra layer that's giving. I think they're going to give New York City hope. They're going to give young women hope. And they're going to be a model nationwide. And I do think with the issues they're planning to raise is going to be extremely extraordinary. I think we've seen an array of issues. And I think the city is heading to a place where we are making progress, but there still needs to be a lot more work done, of course. And I'm hopeful for the city.
That's
I'm hopeful of city government.
if I could reach you, I would love to give you a big hug because I think that you are such a positive sign for the future. Do you want to be mayor?
The world may never know. The world may never know. I will not leave it off of the table, because I truly believe life, you never know where you'll go. And when you have a purpose and your destiny, I truly believe when you have a calling, no matter how much you try to run away and fight the calling will always be there. So that's what I would say to that.
Don't you believe, or do you believe, I don't know how to phrase it, that there is a woman's perspective to the public policy, that we look at things differently, and that it has historically been missing for so long?
Of course,
And this
1,000%.
Yeah, even the priorities of issues. I mean, this council is going to be so different And I'm so delighted about it.
No, I think for me, even I've learned firsthand in my experience as being chair of USS. A little funny story, when I was running for this position, it was the first time in history. Usually some students run individually, but they run in slates, like you're doing SGA, like for example, caucuses, whatever it may be. So I decided to run with a slate when I ran for chair of University Student Senate. And one thing I did differently from my predecessors, or just historically ever in 35 years of University Student Senate being here, was I ran with an all-women slate. And many people, many people told me, well, you're not going to win because, some of the men are not going to vote for you. And some people will think you're anti-men. And I told them, if you think the message I am sending is that I'm anti-men, you have missed the message. You have, in fact, missed the message. And I think me getting into a normalcy and comfortability in regards to elevating women unapologetically when they are more than qualified to, but also being in a place of knowing what leadership has done for me and knowing this opportunity to give these women this opportunity to be a part of this will change their lives forever. And if I can just do that one thing that I've learned that has changed me, why not do it for a group of women who I know will elevate issues at a different scale and perspective? And we did just that. And in fact, I didn't listen to the folks who told me that you weren't going to win, because I wasn't running to win. I was running to create a shift and a change in what we call the CUNY culture, what we call the City University of New York. And in fact, I won. And 9 of those women won as well. And it was extraordinary. And all of those women are women of color. And this is the first time in the history of the City University of New York, the highest level of student government body has been led by majority women and women of color. That is a representation of what the City University of New York is, but it's also an example to show everyone that just because someone doesn't believe in your vision, it's okay. And just because you believe in women and wanting to intentionally elevate women, that is also okay. And you should continue doing just that.
Who votes in these elections?
So our local campuses, each campus has University Student Senate reps. So every campus from the 25 campuses, on your local campus, you have to get elected to USS, and each campus has USS reps. So everybody from 2 to 3 people from each campus had to vote to elect us.
So be original in the politics, and it's so much easier when you are true to what you believe and true to the principles. It's really fascinating. I can't wait. Are you going to go to law school?
Yes, my goal is to go to law school, and I definitely want to be an attorney one day to focus on women's rights and constitutional rights.
I know, but you need to be in the government also.
That will come. That will come.
And how is it on the Board of Trustees? Are they nervous with you?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you can't really tell. Do they know they have a student that will always elevate what needs to be heard and the truth? Yes. Do they know that they have a student that will always push them to be a bit better? Of course. And I think as long as they know who I am and what I'm going to bring to the table, I'm content with that. But it's been very extraordinary to build relationships with them, but also see how their perspectives have progressed and to see the influence of students and how we can in fact push their perspective on certain things. And I like to say I'm not the generic trustee, I'm the student trustee. So I bring all types of student dynamics to them. And I make sure that, they also see that they have a student on the board who believes in this institution as much as they do. And, we are the future leaders and change makers of this world. And I truly believe when you talk about the history of CUNY, the students within CUNY have gotten CUNY to where it is today. When we talk about the history within civil rights, when we talk about just the activism and the art and the scholarship of our institution, it has been remarkable students who have contributed so much. And we only want our institution to be better so we can go make this world better and make this city better.
So what happened in the state budget? Did you lose money or did they give you the same amount or what?
Well, this year in the state budget, we got some things I was surprised about. For example, funding to close a TAP gap.
Oh, that was wonderful, wasn't it?
Yes, it was extraordinary, something we've been advocating for a lot. Specific line item allocation for mental health services. That's something that we worked closely with Senator Tobianne Stavitsky, which was, extraordinary, and Assemblymember Deborah Glick, which was extraordinary to see. And we've seen increasement in funding. Did I expect this budget to be what it was? I was a bit pessimistic because I don't like to get my stakes high in state government, but I did believe in the lobbying that we did, but also it showed a trajectory of work that we did from the previous years and the mobilization of students, but also University Student Senate being a leading force in students understanding the legislative process and how do we jump the gun and how do we have our press conferences and our rallies and our galas and we politic the same way our electeds are politicking as well.
So you're going to have a mayor who who went to CUNY and
graduate City Tech.
And the city's contribution to CUNY has gone down and down. Yeah. I just don't understand why not only the mayor and the city government, but why the business community doesn't understand the importance of CUNY, because you're providing the workforce for the city. Why don't they understand that?
I would say I don't think it's that they don't understand. I think it's that they intentionally know these are a group of students who are predominantly Black and students of color, and they intentionally know if opportunities are afforded and presented to these groups of individuals, then what will be left for those who are wealthy? You see this with, for example, the state budget, the city budget. Every year, CUNY contributes billions of dollars back to your state economy. Our students are going to school here, they're working here, contributing back. Majority of our elected officials would not be where they are today weren't for their CUNY degrees. Their staffers are either pursuing degrees at CUNY or from CUNY. So when you're looking at each lifeline sector of the state and city, it is in fact the City University of New York. But we do know the City University of New York predominantly serves a group of students who are marginalized. And I think that when we talk about institutionalized racism and systemic racism, this is what it is, because there is no reason why we shouldn't fully invest in CUNY and that be a question. Why does it have to be a negotiation of investing in such an institution that is the lifeline of the city?
I believe that. I think that's definitely true. And it's so discouraging. But the business community, which, spends a lot of money on different things, and they're especially in furthering their own interests, why they don't spend a large amount of money in CUNY, I just don't understand. Have you ever gone to lobby?
We've never taken that route. I think that's definitely something that we should try to do. But we do know some of the things that I would hear from some elected sometimes, and just corporations and entities, when we'll talk about funding for CUNY, some will say, well, CUNY students don't vote. So, why is it that
they should know that they've got you in the Senate and you're going to get them out to vote?
Exactly. And I think that I think it also has to do with we're serving a group of students who have to do endless things to make ends meet. If a student was able to have sufficient funds to put food on the table, to pay for their books, and didn't have to work 3 jobs to cover their tuition costs, I'm sure everybody would take the streets every time there'd be a rally. I'm sure everybody would lobby. I always say the work that I do is in fact a privilege. It is a privilege for me to be able to run our elected officials down and to let them know what we should do for CUNY. And I never take that for granted, and I never, take this work lightly.
And I'm sure you do. I don't understand why people don't vote. I don't think they understand what it means to vote and what a privilege it is and what an obligation it is. So I really hope that you guys do a lot in getting people out to vote. I am so overwhelmed with the leadership that you're providing the students and your future and whatever you're going to do. And I think you are going to be the mayor of New York.
Thank you. And it's truly been an honor. I wouldn't be the woman that I am today and who I am today without CUNY, and everything I do in my life moving forward is always going to be and to help contribute to the City University of New York. And that's a lifelong mission that I'm committed to, because there's so many other people who deserve this chance, who deserve this journey, and fighting every day to make that happen for them is my commitment.
Well, they're so lucky to have you. And so thank you so much. And I hope that we talk again and really
Yes,
let's strategize something that you can do.
definitely. I look forward to the continued partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.